Welcome back to the Sports Desk, everyone. I'm Splash, your host. Jack's back. How's it going, man?
I'm here, and life is pain because the Lakers lost in 6.
This is true, and we're gonna get it. We're gonna get into that in a few minutes. The Wheel of Death has returned. So yeah, we'll get into that in a few minutes. Of course, Jack wasn't here last week, so I burned out my vocal cords for 75 minutes.
Fun.
Anyways, let's hop into those topics. You can throw up the wheel, Jack, when you are ready.
Let's do it.
All right.
Alrighty.
Do it.
We got the NBA one first. Let's get into it.
All right.
First on the docket. Oh, that's quick.
Yes, it is.
Miami, Milwaukee.
Oh, boy. Yeah, this one was not much of a series. It was 4 games. Game 1 was awesome. Game 1 was a banger. It went to overtime. Punches were flying left and right. Giannis, Butler, Bam, and then Milwaukee just cruised. Games 2, 3, 4. It was unfair what Milwaukee did in that series. Of course, last year in the bubble, Miami won in 5. This year,
wasn't Giannis hurt in the bubble?
I think he was. He missed game 5. He missed game 4. Game 5.
I seem to remember him being hurt.
But, oh, man, he was just schlumped. He got massacred. Or the Heat got massacred in this series, and it was kind of just bizarre. I don't want to say bizarre. I think Milwaukee was clearly the better team, but, geez.
Sure.
You expect Miami to be competitive.
Absolutely.
You don't expect them to get swept like they did. It was quite ugly. Game 1 was awesome. Game 1 was really close. But again, like I said, 2, 3, 4 weren't close at all. And it frankly wasn't very good basketball, which, you kind of feel at a certain point, you do feel bad that Miami did have a short offseason. We'll touch on this with the Lakers, but they have the shortest offseason in NBA history, and they don't even get to lift the trophy. They have to deal with, we have the shortest offseason ever, and you're not even reigning NBA champions. At least the Lakers can say, hey, we won a title. Hey, LeBron has 4
exactly.
now.
That's the thing. That's the big difference between them and the Lakers is that the Lakers got the ring, and no matter what, you're not going to take that away from them. So
yeah. So I'm just going to read off the game scores. Milwaukee won game 1 at home by 2 in overtime. Then game 2, they won by 34. Then went down to Miami, won by 29, and then 17. It wasn't a very close series. I'm a little surprised. I thought Miami would put up a little bit of a better fight. I thought it was going to go 6, but Milwaukee played extraordinarily well. Just steamrolled Miami. Butler didn't play well at all.
Miami.
He deserves some slander. He didn't play well in the slightest. I'm pulling up the stats real quick. Giannis was fine. He was 23.5, 15, 8 assists, a steal, or 2 steals and a block. Only shot 45% from the field, which you're going to need to do better. But the Bucks had 6 guys averaging in double figures. Portis, Forbes, Pollard, Lopez.
6 people.
Yeah.
6 people. That's
And you just just look at the Miami team or Miami and Dragic was 16. They had 5 guys. Yeah. 6. Dragic had 16, Bam 15.5, Butler 14.5. Ugly series from Butler, shot under 30% from the field. 10 for Nunn, 10 for Robinson, 9 for Hero. So you say, oh, well, they had 6 guys averaging at least 9. I'm just going to go through the field goal percentages: 42.6, 45.6, 29.7, 39.5, 37.9, and 31.6. That's not getting it done. Miami got crushed in this series. So you want to pop the wheel back up and
let's
we
do
can
it.
proceed?
All right.
All right, let's do it. Yeah, I think you have the option to take a team off when we do.
Oh, do I?
Yeah. Okay, Atlanta and the Knicks. This series wrapped up quicker than I thought it would, and I'm a little surprised that the Hawks did, in fact, grab the W in this series. What about you, Jack?
Yeah, that's a little surprising. I already forgot who it was. It was Atlanta and the Knicks.
Yeah, Atlanta and New York.
Yeah, I didn't expect Atlanta to win that. That was a little shocking.
No, yeah, I mean, I thought coming in New York was the better team. I thought they would have the best player, Julius Randle. And like Trae didn't do anything overly spectacular. Like he was good. He averaged 29 a game, 10 assists. Like don't get me wrong, he was very good, but it wasn't like a absurd series from Trae. Like Dame was absurd. We'll get to Dame in a little bit, but Dame was absurd. Trae was good, just not absurd. And then you look at Julius Randle, who, if you just look at the raw numbers, 18 and 11.6 rebounds, 4 assists, 85% from the free throw line. You can deal with all that. You know what you can't deal with? You can't deal with a guy shooting sub 30%. Your best player, the guy that takes 94 shots in a series, about 19 a game, shot 30%. That's
not great. Not great.
That's disgusting. Turned the ball over 23 times in the series as well, over 4 games.
That's terrible.
It's ugly.
Even as a basketball casual, I know that turnovers are horrible. Like absolutely horrible.
Yeah, just an ugly series all around for New York. You know, and you have the whole booing Trae Young. Like, I get it. You don't like Trae Young. I don't know why you don't like Trae Young as much as you do. But it was just bizarre. And I'll run through the series. Hawks won game 1 by 2 in New York. Knicks came back 1 by 9. And then the Hawks pulled both game 3 and game 4 out at home by 11, then by 17. And then they closed out game 5 in Madison Square Garden. They won by 14. Really pitiful from New York. I mean, they played good defense. The Hawks didn't have a game that they scored more than 113 points. And these games were pretty close, all things considered, when your best player is shooting 30% and you keep it within 20. Like, that's impressive. But I don't know. I think the Knicks have to look themselves in the mirror and say, is Julius Randle really the guy? You know, he can be, I think he can
give him back to us. Give him back to us.
Yeah, he would have been the second best player on the Lakers. We're going to get to the Lakers. But,
we will get to the Lakers if the wheel permits.
Yeah, if the wheel allows, we will get to the Lakers. And here we are. Let's do it. Let's rock and roll.
Boston, Brooklyn.
Okay. This was a pretty quick series. I'll run through the scores real quick. Brooklyn won the first 2 games. They beat Boston by 11 and then by 22. Boston answered game 3, huge game. This was the Tatum game. They won by 6 at home. Brooklyn came in, scored 141 in game 4, won by 15, and then they closed out the series with a 14-point dub at Barclays Center. I thought it was an impressive performance from Brooklyn. You know, they were good enough defensively. I mean, Boston's not gonna like scare you. Of course, Tatum had the 50 burger, but in game 3. But I mean, you know, when you have 2 guys that can score 40, actually 3 guys that can score 40, and then 2 of them can do it at the same time with Durant and Harden and Kyrie, it's hard to stop, you know. And they had 2 games. There are historical outlier games. There's only a handful of times ever that a pair of teammates have scored 39 points in a game. The Nets had it happen twice in back-to-back games. There's like maybe 6 pairs of teammates that have ever done it. Most recently, I believe, was Kyrie and LeBron in game 5 of the 2016 finals. It doesn't happen often. They had Durant was pouring in buckets. Kyrie was pouring in buckets. Harden was pouring in buckets. Like the least efficient guy in that group was Kyrie. He shot 49% from the field, 39% from 3, and was scoring 25 a game. Like, are you kidding me? They all shot above 90% from the line. As a team in a series, Brooklyn was 125 of 137 on free throws. That's 91%.
That's ridiculous.
Their team slash line rounds up to a 50-40-90 season. 49.6% from the field, 42.6 from 3, 91.2 from the line. Like, they had 4 different guys make at least 14 threes. Durant was 50%. Harden was 47.5. Kyrie was 38.9. And Joe Harris was 51.5.
Yeah, I mean, relatively speaking, though, like we saw how, I guess, stacked, for lack of a better word, the Nets are this year. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, this is kind of a series you would expect them to win, or at least do very well in. I wouldn't say they played fine for the opposition, yeah, but like you said,
they were fine defensively.
I don't think Boston really scares you like you said. At the very least, as a Lakers fan, if it wasn't us, I'm glad we could take Boston now with us so that nobody gets 18 this year.
Right. Yeah. So Jason Tatum, shout out to him. He averaged 30.6 in the series. Marcus Smart poured in 17 a game. Fournier poured in 15 a game. Tristan Thompson, 10 and 10. Kemba Walker did pour in 12.7 a game. This was on 31.2% from the field, 17.6% from three. Like, ugly stats there, and a rough series from Kemba. But I do think if there's anything you can hang your hat on, this series is probably closer with Jaylen Brown. I don't know if the Celtics win, but you're getting Jaylen Brown back next year. So you're going to have probably a superstar-ish player in Tatum and then a star in Brown. And you'll be higher than the 7 seed next year at Boston.
Sure.
So with that said, let's keep the train moving. Let's head back to the wheel.
Talking a lot of playoffs today.
Yes, sir.
Who we got? Memphis and Utah.
This was a fun series. I really liked it. I'll run through the scores. Memphis stole game 1 in Utah, up in Salt Lake. They won by 3. Utah replied with a 12-point win, then went to Memphis, won by 10, then 7. Then in the return to Utah, they won by 17. But the scores in these games I think are a little misleading, and here's why. Memphis played really poorly in the clutch. There were these games that would enter, say, 3 minutes to go, it's tied. 2 minutes to go, Memphis leads it by 2 or whatever. It felt like every game, Memphis led with 6 minutes left. Or it was a 2-point game with 6 minutes left. And then the Jazz go on a 17-5 run and win by 20, right? So they won 3 games by at least 10. And the other game they won by 7. So these games were close, and I'll give Memphis credit. They kept it close for what that's worth with the best team in the NBA for 45 minutes. And then Donovan Mitchell became Donovan Mitchell. Ja Morant was Ja Morant. But then you look at Memphis, and outside of Ja Morant, what else are you really rocking with? And it's frankly not a whole lot. And I do want to give all the credit in the world to Ja. He had an all-time kind of playoff series. He had 47 in game 2. They lost by 12. So he and Mitchell went back and forth. It was impressive, and I think Ja. This is the kind of thing you want to see from Ja, even though they lost. Even though they lost, I don't think it matters that they lost. This is the experience. He averaged 30 a game in his first playoff run. I'll take it. If I'm a Memphis fan, I will happily take it. Dylan Brooks was pouring in 26 a game. Are you kidding me? So, I mean, I think top to bottom, this Memphis team is built for the future. But I was listening to Atlanta Sports Radio the other day, and you have to ask the question, is this a team that you can win a championship with, or do you have to start fiddling around with pieces? And that's what Taylor Jenkins and the front office in Memphis have to figure out is a team built around Ja Morant good enough to go deep in the playoffs? Is a team that your second best player is Jaren Jackson? He will be the second best player on the team next year. Is that good enough? And it might be, it might not be, but you have to figure that out ASAP. If it's not good enough, retool. Get a second star with Ja, get a third star, do something to go win that title. Memphis has never won a title. They've never been particularly close. The only time they made it to the Western Conference Finals, they were swept by San Antonio in 2013. So it's a big series for Ja, or a big step next year for Ja in year 3. But I'm going to circle back to Utah. Donovan Mitchell was incredible. He ever put in 28.5 a game. Hit big shot after big shot after big shot. We talked about who was the first team that we talked about?
The very first?
Yeah, oh my goodness, I'm just totally blanking.
Was it?
Shoot.
I forget who it was. It was
Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Milwaukee had 6 guys that scored 10 a game. Well, so did Utah. Mitchell poured in 28.5. Clarkson 18.5. Bogdanovich 18.5. Conley and Gobert 17.5. Royce O'Neal was pouring in 11 a game, grabbing 7 boards. So well-rounded effort. Of course, Mitchell missed game 1, which people are like, oh, Donovan Mitchell missed game. Mitchell was great in the rest of the series. Hopefully he's going to be healthy moving forward, because this Jazz team is a legitimate chance to win the title.
Sure. And shout out to Dan for just spamming the chat.
Wow,
He's going off.
I have basketball reference pulled up, so I haven't been looking at the chat. Oh boy,
It's literally all Dan.
Okay, thanks,
It's literally
Dan.
all Dan, and he caught me laughing.
Oh, that's funny. Anyways,
right.
let's keep it rolling.
Maybe we'll talk about that Lakers series next. Let's see what fate the wheel decides for us.
And of course, only one series has yet to be decided. That is Clippers Mavericks. They have Game 6 tomorrow, or I think actually, yeah, tonight. And speaking of Lakers and Suns,
let's just get to it now.
Yep. All right, folks. Game 1, Phoenix won by 9. Then Jack and I went live, like within half an hour of the game ending, and said the Lakers are still going to win the title. Games 2 and 3, it looked like they would. They beat Phoenix by 7 in Game 2, won by 14 in Game 3. Game 4
rolls around the corner, and Anthony Davis leaves the game with a groin injury, and basically with him left the Lakers' chances of ever winning a title this year.
Yes, I agree. Here's my thing. I know Dan's going off in the comments saying Suns in 6. I get it. And I said before the playoffs, I thought it was going to be Lakers in 6. I thought the Lakers were going to win the title.
We took the L.
Yeah, I will.
We took the L.
Here's the thing. We both went on Dan's show a couple months ago, and I said, this was right around my birthday, so like middle of March. I said, with Anthony Davis, the Lakers beat the Suns. Without Anthony Davis, it's whatever. Suns are the better team. They probably win that series. But Jack and I were talking before the show went live, and we came to the conclusion that on a floor, when LeBron James was on the floor, the Phoenix Suns had 5 of the 6 best players on the floor.
Absolutely.
Whether that's CP3, Booker, Cam Johnson, Cam Payne, like Ayton, Bridges. Are you kidding me? Like if you're drafting a team from the guys available, Anthony Davis being hurt, if you're drafting a team 5 of the 6, you're talking probably outside of who are you taking? Who's the second Laker you take? LeBron was fine, but
LeBron was fine, but I don't think he played at a level to win them the series.
Yeah, I mean,
it got the Lakers were so injured to hell and back too.
Yeah,
throughout the year that
LeBron had the nagging stuff with his ankle, and
exactly
he's 36. So if you want to view that as excuses, okay, but
fine.
You can ask the same question: why did the Knicks lose? Well, anything you say is technically an excuse. Why did the Celtics lose? Why did the Heat lose? Why did the Wizards lose?
And not to mention the Lakers and the Heat, who both made the final and played 6 games in the final, both had the shortest off seasons of any team in the league.
Mm-hmm.
This is like a 72-day off season.
Yeah, they were playing games in mid-October, and opening day was December 22nd,
something like December, close to Christmas. It was ridiculous.
You're talking a 2.5 month. If you're just being like exaggerating a little, 2.5 months off. Now, say what you will, but in a normal off season, like even this off season, that the finals are probably going to happen beginning of July, right? You're still talking most of July off, all of August off, all of September off. That's already 2 months, and then you're probably going to push the season back a little bit.
It really makes me wonder, will the NBA ever get back to normal? It's kind of ridiculous.
You'd probably have to screw over the 2022 season to do that.
Yeah.
I guess you could keep moving it like a week forward, a week forward, a week forward, so you're not taking like massive chunks of time. But
like a small chunk of time with no preseason is ridiculous. Like I understand the NBA did have to get back so that they could kind of get closer to a normal schedule or something. Mm-hmm. But we've seen what a lack of preseason or anything like that does to teams and players, and really any sport. Like we saw in the NFL last year, there was no preseason at all.
Yeah,
and
the first week were a little ugly.
By week 2, by week 2, you had the 49ers get depleted to hell. You had a few other teams just get destroyed by the injury bug, and it's like
killed with injuries. New England. Well, I guess New England had a bunch of opt-outs.
New England had opt-outs. They had some injuries too, and then obviously COVID being a thing that just screwed over a bunch of other teams too.
Okay, so
it just makes you wonder.
Right. On the subject of the season and the stoppage last year, I am of the opinion that if there's no stoppage, the Lakers still win the title.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I think they were the best team before the stoppage, and then they were the best team in the bubble. I mean, I guess Phoenix did go 8-0, but
that was like they were like what
they were like started the playoffs as a 12 seed. Now I understand they went 8-0, and they were probably the team of the bubble, like the play-in games. But I do think it's a little bit more impressive that the Lakers went 16-4, 16-5 in the playoffs. Right? They went 4-1, 4-1, 4-1, 4-2.
4-1, 4-1, 4-1, 4-2.
Yeah. So I do think the Lakers were the best team in the bubble last year, and they were the best team all season, right? And then stoppage when they are at peak powers. When LeBron was really gaining on Giannis to win MVP. Like you'd say, well, LeBron's always the most valuable player and probably should have more MVPs than the 4 that he had in 09, 10, 12, and 13. While I agree that, say, if you look at from an MVP shares kind of metric, I agree LeBron should have more than 4, and he does. But I wouldn't give it to him over Rose in 11. I wouldn't give it to him to Durant in 14. I wouldn't give it to him over Kobe in 08. But if you play the last 15 games or so of the Lakers season in 2020, he might catch Giannis. He was gaining all sorts of steam in the media, all sorts of steam, and the Lakers were rolling, and then just stop. Everyone stops, and it's like no momentum. Momentum doesn't matter anymore. It's just who's the best.
It's all dead.
The Lakers happen to be the best team. And I guess Miami, I don't even know if I would say they're the best team, but they did beat Milwaukee, and I think you could argue in a head-to-head matchup that Miami can defend Milwaukee, and Giannis has taken a step forward this year and was great against Miami. But I do think that if you have a normal 2020 and normal 2021, the Lakers aren't the 7 seed. I don't know if they lose to Phoenix.
I don't think
they're the 7 seed.
I don't think the Lakers are the 7 seed regardless because of injuries, I feel like is the thing. And like we've kind of determined already that injuries is kind of a result of the short preseason or short off season.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. Under a normal year and under a year where the Lakers aren't getting hurt left and right, because I've been seeing quotes from their exit interviews all day long on Twitter. They're just constantly talking about how they never got a real chance to play as a unit because they were hurt all the time. So it's like, what are you going to do? Like it's tough to predict injuries. I'm not saying that where'd my train of thought go? I just saw this big comment appear. So
confidence in the Lakers. Because I think just looking back, as of right now, it doesn't make any sense why I had the Lakers over the Nets. You know, even in the playoffs, even with a fully healthy AD and LeBron, just I don't think the Lakers just aren't as good as they were last year. You brought in pieces that like the names are cool. Yeah, hey, Contavious Caldwell-Pope. I guess he's been there a while, but
he's
Schroeder and Drummond's not good at basketball, man. Schroeder had an 0 for 9 game in a critical game 5 in Phoenix. The Lakers lost by 30 in large part because Schroeder couldn't make a shot, you know. And say what you will about LeBron not like raising his game, but
it drives me crazy.
At least a little bit of help.
It drives me absolutely crazy when somebody says that the NBA is all about like a duo or a trio or something like that. Depth matters. Absolutely matters. I don't care at all who your star players are. If you lose one guy and it causes you to lose by 30 in a pivotal game 5, you need a new team. I don't mean a completely new team. Like obviously there are a lot of pieces on the Lakers that should stay, but they need more help.
Yeah, but actually let's do a little game, and then we'll get to the Jazz comment in a second by Dark Sage. We'll get to you in a moment, buddy.
I believe we still have one more series to go, by the way.
Yes. Okay. We're gonna play a short little game here. I'm gonna read off players on Phoenix, and you're gonna tell me if you'd prefer to have the second best Laker or this player. Okay, ready?
Go for it.
You prefer, and I don't even know who you would say the second best player on the Lakers.
I don't think I have any names.
I don't know. Okay, here we go. So you would take LeBron over probably all of them, but anyways, would you take the second best player on the Lakers over Devin Booker?
No.
No. DeAndre Ayton?
No.
Cameron Payne?
Ayton went off in the series. No.
Okay, Ayton was awesome. Jay Crowder?
No.
Mikal Bridges?
Absolutely not.
Chris Paul?
No, definitely not Chris Paul.
Cameron Johnson?
No.
Torrey Craig?
No.
Dario Saric?
No.
Frank Kaminsky?
A lot of these guys, you could tell, I don't know who they are, but the Lakers were so fundamentally terrible in this series that, like, I would take these guys.
I think you probably stop at Saric. I think Craig did some nice things. He only played 62 minutes in the series. Craig did some nice things. You have the argument that if you're taking the top 9 players in the series, Phoenix has 8 of them.
Yeah.
And then the guys that you're not taking out of Phoenix played like 80 minutes combined in the series. Saric, Kaminsky, E'Twaun Moore, Jalen Smith, Langston Galloway, Javon Carter. Were playing 5 minutes a game, 5 minutes, like 8 minutes. Like they're not really contributing anything. And you take all of them over the second best Laker. So that's a credit to Phoenix, the team construction of Phoenix. Phoenix can win the title. And I like an NBA that Phoenix can win the title. I would prefer an NBA that we have competitive playoff games, but Phoenix can win the title, and that's cool.
Absolutely.
So with that said, do we want to go into our final NBA round, or do we want to go into the topic? Or into Dark Sage's comments?
We've already done Lakers Phoenix. There are a few other series that we haven't done, and obviously you said I think Memphis, was it? Which series was it?
We did Memphis, Utah, but Dark Sage is talking about the Jazz.
Yeah, let's get to that comment first, and then we'll.
All right, so I'll throw up this part 1. This year has to be the year of the Jazz. As a fan of Utah, I feel we are always overlooked or never taken seriously as a team. And while, yes, the team has its faults, most of them are self-inflicted over the years due to poor leadership. This year we win it. It will be a statement that the Jazz are that good and can play with the best teams. I am not trying to come off as mean or disrespectful. So many times my team has fallen short, and their failures are their own over the decades and years. But I feel a Jazz win would be great for the entire league, a mid-sized market team finally getting over the top and breaking through. Okay. Eloquently said, absolutely. And I don't think it came off as mean or disrespectful. I think
I don't think it
supporting your team. And I mean, Utah was the best team in the NBA this season by record. So I respect that. At least I believe they won 52 games. Yeah, they beat Philly by 3, beat Phoenix by 1. So Utah was the best team in the NBA all season. I guess there was a little stretch that Phoenix overtook them, but I get where you're coming from. I do think you're a little limited when your best player is a defensive first center that can't shoot outside of 3 feet. Mitchell's incredible, but would you say he's a top 10 player? Would you say Donovan Mitchell is like a super duper star?
No. It's really difficult to put him top 10.
Yeah.
Maybe top 15, 20. I don't know. It's hard.
Like Mitchell's a great player, but I think we have to distinguish between great players and all-time
elite all-time players.
And I saw this on the app the other day. When's the last time a team without an all-time player won a title? Like
that was perfect timing.
Yeah. Even like if you go back, let's say 2020, you have LeBron and AD. You have 2 Hall of Famers. 2019, you have Kawhi, Hall of Famer. 2018, 2017, you have Curry.
However many years the Warriors were competing, they had Curry,
Clay, Curry, Draymond. You have Hall of Famers there. LeBron in 2016.
Cavs.
The Spurs 2014. LeBron, Wade, Bosh 2012 and 13. Dirk in 2011. It's really hard to win a title without that guy.
The year before that, Kobe too.
Yeah, you have Kobe in 9 and 10. Then 08. 08 might be the last time that you don't have a top 15 player of all time, and you win the title. I mean, I guess you can argue Dirk, maybe not top 15, but he's top 20. And then if you lower it to top 20, Kevin Garnett is top 20. You know, you're going back 07, yep, 06, yep, you have Wade and Shaq. 05, you have the Spurs again. you're looking at 04 as being the last time a team didn't have a bona fide like superstar, like a for sure Hall of Famer, top 30 player ever. And even they had Chauncey Billups, who was a borderline Hall of Famer, and Rasheed Wallace, who's a borderline Hall of Famer, and Rip Hamilton, who's a borderline Hall of Famer, and then Ben Wallace, who just got in the Hall of Fame. Shout out to Ben Wallace. But I do think that it's really hard to win a title without a top 20 player ever. I don't think Donovan Mitchell is a top 20 player ever. And if you want me to continue that card and look at the other teams that can win the title, I think Luka has a chance to be a top 20 player ever. I think Chris Paul has a chance to be a top 20 player ever. I think Kawhi can be a top 20 player ever. So that's 3 teams just in the West that you're having this conversation with. Brooklyn, KD is a top 20 player ever. Harden, you can make it an argument if he's the best player on a title team. I think Harden has that like capability. I think Kyrie can be the best player on a title team. I think Embiid can. I think Giannis can, certainly. I don't think the Hawks have much of a chance. For me, it's hard. I understand the Jazz are very good, and they're very, very well-rounded, and they have a tremendous baseline. They're not going to screw up many games. Like, it's hard for them to, like, lose, like, say, 3 in a row, unless you're just that much better than them. But in the NBA, it's been almost impossible to win a title without a top 25 player ever. I think there's an argument every other team has a guy that has that at least potential, whether it's Luka, because I've said on the app before, I've probably said it live before, that Luka is a top 10 player that I would, if I'm starting a franchise, I'm taking Luka Doncic over almost everybody in NBA history, let alone active.
I can kind of agree with that, honestly.
Like Luka, offensively, Luka is already on that echelon of this man can do anything he wants on the floor. Like the only players, active NBA players that I have 100% confidence that I would take over Luka offensively, like a well-rounded offensive player, is probably LeBron. I mean, Durant is the easiest 2 points a forward has ever been able to like accomplish, but he doesn't have that playmaking. He does have that clutch aspect that Luka does. So like, I mean, Durant, you can argue. Harden, I guess you can argue, but just the maturity of Luka's game, what Luka does is just phenomenal, and he's 22. So that was a pretty long-winded way to say that I like Utah. I like them a lot. I don't think they can win the title.
It'd be nice if they could, though. Like you said, it would be pretty good if they could win. If they could be a small market team winning a title, that would be pretty cool.
And if Donovan Mitchell proves me wrong, all power to him. You know, he's a great player. I just don't know if he is at all time like superstar. Right.
Sure.
So
okay.
With that said, let's move on to these last couple series.
Yes, we'll just spin the wheel for the last few.
Yeah. Then we'll jump over to some hockey. So Jack can talk a little bit more, and I'll be the one barely saying anything.
Portland. Oh, okay. I've been waiting for this one.
Yeah, this was a phenomenal series. Like this had probably the 2 best games of the playoffs. I mean, definitely the best game of the playoffs, Game 5. Which, okay, let me take you back. NBA 2K. You play 2K. Sometimes you screw around with the sliders and you hit a game-winning shot. Damian Lillard hit not 1 but 2 game-tying threes. 2 ridiculous threes.
Absolutely ridiculous threes.
I would show them, but I don't want to get copyright claimed. He had 55 in a playoff game. The list of guys that have done that is on 2 hands. There's like 6 guys ever to do that. Jordan did it a bunch of times, and it's like Barkley, LeBron's never done it. You know, Kareem never did it. It's a very short list of guys to score 55 in a playoff game. He did 55. He hit 12 threes. He had like a 968 true shooting percentage, which is ridiculous. And is the
dude just turned up. He just straight up like absolutely like you know how people like LeBron said like playoff mode or whatever it was.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's what that we got from Dame this weekend.
Yeah, beautiful from Dame. So I'll go through the scores real quick. Portland did steal Game 1. They won by 14. Denver won by 19. Then Denver went to Portland, won by 5. Portland won game 4 by 20. Then the classic, the double overtime, Denver won by 7. And then game 6, Denver won by 11, right at the horn there. So let's just jump into Denver for a second. Jokic was awesome, 33 and 11, 4.5 assists, 53% from the field, 43% from 3. He was great, 92% from the line. That's always impressive from a big man. But this story begins and ends with Damian Lillard. 34 points a game, 4 rebounds, 10 assists, 200 points in a 6-game playoff series. That doesn't happen very
absurd. Absolutely absurd.
Assists. He's the only guy ever to have 200 points and 60 assists in a playoff series that wins 6 games.
How do you beat that?
I don't know. And it was efficient too. 46% from the field, 45% from 3. And think about the threes he's taking. These are the toughest of the tough threes, and he's making 46% of them, and he shot 45% of them. Sorry, and he shot 94% from the line. He was awesome.
It's not that he just had one game. Like, I think the key thing you said is that he was efficient. Like, it's not that he just had one game where he just had like padded all his stats and then he finished out with a couple like meh games. Like, he was
he had 42 in game 2, 37 in game 3, 55 in game 5. Again, 55 in a playoff game just doesn't happen. And shout out to Dame. And if Frankie or Nick jumped on, they'd probably immediately talk about Lillard coming to the Knicks. We're not going to talk about that on this show. Maybe later in the offseason. But
maybe we can have them on.
What a series in general. This was just an awesome series all around.
Absolutely.
I think we have 2 more left.
2 more left. Let's see.
Oh, we haven't talked about the active series. Hopefully we get the Philly one first, and then we can transition into the active one. Okay, awesome. Washington and Philly. Philly just kind of cruised. They won 4-1. There were a couple close games. Ben Simmons was weird. Like, it's hard. I'm going to jump over to what I said about the Jazz. It's hard for me to put a team that your second best player just can't shoot outside of 3 feet. That's the problem with Philly. Even if Joel Embiid is healthy, which right now he's not healthy, he might miss some of the Hawks series. Do you trust Ben Simmons to be the best player on the floor when he can't shoot outside of 5 feet? Like, I don't know. You look at the series and it's hard. Like, I know Ben Simmons is awesome defensively. I know he's a tremendous playmaker, but it's hard for me to back a guy that can't shoot. And it's not even like LeBron in his prime can't shoot. LeBron could actually shoot. He just took a lot of hard shots. So like the 3-point percentage isn't as high as you want it to be. Ben Simmons just doesn't shoot. He has no interest in shooting. Like, even the most inefficient players you can think of, Allen Iverson could shoot the ball. Kobe could shoot the ball. James Harden can shoot the ball. LeBron can shoot the ball. And these guys can score from all 3 layers. Ben Simmons, when he's passive, he's not scoring from any layer. Like, yeah, I get it. He had 15 rebounds in a game. He had 10 rebounds in a game. He had a couple triple doubles, I think. He did shoot 64%, but he shot 36% from the free throw line, 10 of 28. That's not going to cut it. He was 15, 10, and 9. That's really nice. Don't get me wrong, but when your second best player is a liability outside of 5 feet, there's an issue. Tobias Harris was great. He averaged 25 a game. Joel, 24 and 7. Did get hurt. So you need to see him back if you want to beat Atlanta, I think. Seth Curry poured it on, scored 16 a game.
Jeez.
It's
not something you hear every day, Seth Curry going off.
Yeah, Ben Simmons is a goofy one. And I will give some airtime to Bradley Beal. Real deal Brad Beal. 30 points per game. Westbrook was 19, 10, and 12. Did it efficiently, though, 33% from the field. Hachimura had a nice playoff debut, 62% from the field, 15 a game. Daniel Gafford, he's one of the guys that came on late in the season. 12 points, 6 rebounds, assist, steal, 2 blocks a game. He was nice. Davis Bertans hit 35% of his threes. That's cool. Anything else you want to touch on about the Wizards Sixers?
I think you kind of covered it all.
Cool.
So last one. I don't even have to spin the wheel. It's
the
active series.
Yeah.
Where the Clippers, who should still be in San Diego, are currently down 3-2.
Buffalo even.
Buffalo, that would work too.
Yeah.
They're currently down 3-2 to Dallas.
Yes. The road team has won all 5 games. So Dallas won game 1 and game 2. The Clippers won game 3 and game 4 in Dallas. And then Dallas went back to Staples Center, got the dub. And now they return home. They play tonight, I believe at 9 o'clock. And if you're Dallas, this is... I know they've won 3 games at Staples Center. I know. I get it. This is a must-win game. And it's not even game 7s are hard. Don't blow it on your home court. Like, just don't blow it, man. Come on.
It's your home court. Like, come on.
Like, it's one thing to lose like once or twice. That's fine. But losing a third time on your home floor, that's an issue for me. And when you talk about this series, it's Luka Doncic and it's Luka Doncic. Like, Luka is playing at an absurd level. 35 a game. 8 rebounds, 9.4 assists. He has a shot that, say Dallas goes deep in the playoffs, he might lead the playoffs in points, rebounds, and assists. He currently leads his team in all 3. So that's a start. And assuming you don't get like a Giannis who's averaging 15 rebounds, like if you play like the Nets, I guess the Nets might score a lot of put up a lot of points. But Luka could lead the entire playoffs in points, rebounds, and assists. He's that good, and I'm ready for tonight. Tonight's going to be a banger. I guess for the sake of Luka's stats, I hope it goes 7, but
who knows?
I do think they need to win tonight.
Yeah, absolutely win tonight. Not just to avoid a game 7, but just don't embarrass yourself on home court. Yeah, don't blow it on home court.
So we have Pandemic P is back.
Pandemic P.
One
game into the playoffs, and he was trending on Twitter.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, he's been nice in the series. He's had his moments. Kawhi Leonard had a meltdown, which you don't really see very often. Kawhi melted down in Game 5. He had a chance to tie the game, isolated, started turning around in the corner, and then just airballed a 3. Like, you talk about way off P. How about way off Kawhi? Just
like Jesus.
That wasn't happening there. It was just bad from there. Either way. We're gonna jump to some hockey now. Of course, Jack is more well versed in.
Before we jump to hockey, I feel like there is some NFL news we should talk about. I don't know if it's something like major because it probably couldn't be a problem, but Cam Newton got hurt at practice today.
Mm-hmm.
The rumor is, let me get the push up actually because it was pushed earlier on U Stadium, which you should download.
Yes, absolutely download. I'll plug it while you look for it.
There we go.
Make sure you subscribe to the channel on YouTube, like the stream. Whether you're on Twitch, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on Periscope, which I don't know if you can view this after we finish, but that's beside the point. Follow UCAM on Twitter.
It's here on YouTube.
On follow both of us on those platforms. There we go. We have our socials. I'm at Mr. Splashman19. Jack is at Jack_Mitchell_01. And with that said, Cam Newton.
Here's what it says. It says Cam Newton didn't finish practice as an athletic trainer and a doctor were looking at his right hand about halfway through the workout. Patriots QBs were working on a drill in which a soft pad is tossed at them, and the pad appeared to make contact with his hand on follow-through. When the Patriots transitioned to 7-on-7 work after Cam Newton was having his right hand looked at, Mac Jones led off the drill at QB. Newton stayed on the field to watch the remainder of practice. In later 11-on-11 drills, Jarrett Stidham led off at QB. Shout out to the Bursch on U Stadium.
Yes, sir.
I believe that's... What's his name in the chat? He works with us.
Stefan?
Yeah, Stefan. Shout out to him.
Shout out to Stefan. I don't think it means too much. It's just a hand injury.
Yeah,
as long as he doesn't pull a Marcelo Zuna and use his hand to beat his wife, then we're good. If he
Um,
does that, then that's off the field issues. But it's just a hand. Max could get some extra reps. It's June 4th.
It's June 4th.
We're okay.
Patriots fans, everything is fine. He will play, but it's a little interesting because it does give the Patriots a better look at Mac Jones.
This is true.
It was only 7-on-7, but still.
Mm-hmm.
They could see now what Mac Jones is capable of doing. They have a better idea of what he's better at and what his strengths and weaknesses are.
Absolutely.
I think it's something to keep an eye on. So the Mac Jones thing, not the Cam Newton thing, he will obviously be healthy unless he somehow maimed his hand completely.
Yeah, I don't think he did that.
It was a soft pad practice, so I doubt he will. All right, now we can jump into hockey. We're probably going to be finishing this show off with hockey because I don't think we pushed for hot takes. I realized so.
No, we're good. We're good. Just do a little recap.
All right, we'll just do a quick. We'll kind of go through these a little quicker. So let's go through the wheel.
We're 45 minutes in and just moving to topic 2. Nice.
Ooh, Pittsburgh and New York.
This was a fun series. I watched several games. 3 total overtimes in this series. 2 games that went to overtime. The Islanders came back from down 2-1, and not really a reverse sweep, but they did win game 4, 5, 6 impressively. Game 5 was a double overtime game. They got the dub in Pittsburgh.
Because Mr. Tristan Jarry decided that he was going to temporarily be a member of the New York Islanders. Ooh. It was a terrible goaltender pass that went right to him. Little surprising. I thought Pittsburgh was maybe going to be a little more competitive in this series, and I guess they sort of were.
When two of their losses were in overtime.
Yeah,
they had and they got, I guess, killed in game 4, 4-1, killed in game 6, they lost by 2 goals.
They kind of just lost their momentum after those overtime defeats, and it's like I would have liked to see better performances from Tristan Jarry. I don't think he played terrible, but in clutch moments like double overtime, you can't be giving the puck away the way he was doing.
Absolutely.
He literally just passed it right to the other team. So New York,
that's no bueno on that one.
New York played very strong though, and they're keeping it pretty close with Boston. Just last night they lost in what was it? Single overtime. They didn't go to double overtime. The trouble with the Islanders in that series was the scoring, and this current series I feel like is the scoring. I feel like they need to be Semyon Varlamov. I always goof up his name. He's keeping them in this series without a doubt. If it weren't for some of the ridiculous saves he was making yesterday, Boston would probably be up 2-0, 3-0 after this series. So the Islanders, they're kind of going on a little bit of an interesting run of the playoffs. It is good for their arena too. Here's my hot take, and it might not be much of a hot take. The New York Islanders crowd in the playoffs, it's the best crowd of the whole playoffs, any series. They're playing at the Nassau Coliseum for the last time because their new arena, the UBS Arena, I believe it's called, in Belmont, will be finished before next season starts. And that place is just going insane. All game long, all pre-game long, it's just "Let's go Islanders" chant, back and forth, back and forth. That place is electric. It's incredible the support that team gets, and it's they can go on a run, I feel like. They can maybe go on a run. They can maybe do something special. We'll see how the rest of this Boston series plays out. But if this is their last series playing in the Coliseum, they're at least going out with a bang, I'll say for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And it was impressive that they overcame Pittsburgh. Big series win there. And it's only 2-1 against Boston right now. Of course, we'll talk about Boston in a little bit. But the Pittsburgh series, 2 games have gone to overtime, and if you can just eke one of those out like they did in game 2, you can keep it moving. Yeah. All
right, let's try to wrap this up a little quicker.
Yeah.
There's a lot. Ooh, Minnesota Vegas.
Game 7. You'll love to see it. First round. Game 1 went to overtime. Then Vegas won Minnesota won game 1 in overtime. Vegas won in game 2, then game 3, then game 4. And Minnesota's like, oh dear, going to
Vegas decided to pull another choke job.
Yeah. Lose game 5 at home.
The third year in a row, and they blow a 3-1 series lead.
And it's like, okay. And then Vegas just creamed Minnesota game 7. I got my Kirill Kaprizov jersey in the mail. It worked for game 6. Did not work for game 7.
No,
he did. Even though he did score though.
He did score in game 7. He did not score in game 6. So,
that works? Question mark.
Interesting choice there.
It happened. Gorgeous jersey, by the way. I know you don't like the player, but gorgeous.
I hate the player. I've said this before. I hate the player. Jersey's phenomenal. I know Adidas wants to bring the reverse retros back. More teams should have worn them for the playoffs. Honestly, there were a lot of teams out there like Carolina, Edmonton. They were wearing, or Pittsburgh even too. They were wearing like alternate jerseys at home for the playoffs. That was pretty cool to see.
Should have won some reverse retro there. Get some more jersey sales.
Absolutely. But yeah, this was, I feel like at the end of the day, even though we kind of did expect Vegas to come out of this series, Minnesota definitely put up a fight.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know whether the NHL itself is going to go back to normal because we talked about it with the NBA and how they are probably closer to that because they only have one Canada team that they can just put in Tampa Bay or somewhere else in Florida and play all their games there. The NHL has 7 Canadian teams, so you can't just move them all to the US or to Florida. I mean, you could, but like you wouldn't get any fans there or something.
It'd be a little screwy to me.
It would be really screwy.
But I do think with COVID restrictions opening up, like the NHL is going to have to play a cross Canadian series.
Eventually, they will. They will this year too. I mean, that's how it's going to work after the North Division series between the Canadians and Jets wraps up.
Yeah, the winner of that has to play, say, Tampa, Carolina, or Boston. Like, you have to have that matchup happen, and you can't have, like, a 2-week quarantine.
2-week quarantine. No, I think...
Say Boston to go into Montreal or Winnipeg. It's like, what are you doing?
It's really complicated.
The other way. So, you're going to have the NHL work out a rule with the American government, Canadian government, so these games get played on time.
Exactly. And it's like it impacts next season too, because like what are you going to do then? Like I've heard one of the plans is to have it kind of be like it was in 2013 when there was the abbreviated season because there was a lockout and only West teams played West teams and East teams played East teams. It feels like that's kind of one of the options they're looking at. Right. I hope that's the option they go with because I don't like this whole like you only play your division.
I think it was fun for a year.
It was fun for a year, but it makes me question all these big numbers put up by players like you said, Kaprizov, like Connor McDavid or Austin Matthews.
Well, Connor McDavid. I understand Kaprizov. McDavid's unreal.
He's pretty good. It's an exact or whatever it is. I mean. McDavid is ridiculous. McJesus, as the Edmonton fans like to say. It wasn't enough to win them their playoff series, though. It gets split. But his season was pretty good. But then you think about it, and it's like the dude only had to play Canadian teams. Right. He only played 6 teams all season long, the same 6 teams all season long.
Fair.
The Canucks and the Flames were subpar. Fair. The Senators are a meme.
Fair.
It just makes you think about it. And then like in the West, like the Wild only have to play against like, I mean, yeah, you have Vegas and Colorado, the two like insane teams, but then the Kings are still kind of trying to get themselves out of a rebound. The Ducks and the Sharks are still memes. The Blues are whatever the Blues are. They were good enough to make the playoffs, but I would say the only reason they made it was because the Kings just didn't really have enough at the end of the year. They kind of ran out of gas.
Right.
Yeah. So I would hope it was fun for a year, like you said, but I would hope the league does eventually shift forward to a season where if you can't have like just a normal year, like all the teams playing each other again, at least make it West versus West, East versus East. Spread out the competition a little more.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, I wouldn't be willing to look at the stats in such a weird way. We don't even have this ticker going. Let's do that. And then let's spin the wheel. Washington, Boston.
Ooh, saucy.
So this series ended in, what was it, 5 games, I want to say?
Washington won game 1 in overtime. Boston won game 2 in overtime. Boston won game 3 in double overtime. Then Boston won 4-1 and 3-1 to close out the series.
Kind of an underwhelming performance from the Washington Capitals, if you ask me. There were a lot of overtime games, like you said, but I would have expected the Capitals to do a little bit better.
Sure.
I would have said, like, players like Ovechkin, for crying out loud. Like,
Oven chicken. Continue.
Who else? I forgot who was on Washington. Backstrom, I think, is still there. Who do they have in goal?
This should be the same guy.
It was whoever it was, though, got
Oshie's still there.
Oshie too, yeah. Oshie's incredible. I think he kind of underperformed a little bit, though. Mm-hmm. Like you said, the first 3 games went to overtime. Close ones for sure, but it's still a loss, and especially in the playoffs, like, you don't get that extra point. Like, it's still a loss. And it's like, just, they kind of ran out of gas in the playoffs, it feels like. I would have expected a little more out of them.
I think that's fair. That's fair.
Boston did play at a really high level. Tuukka Rask is one of the best goalies in the league still, I would say.
For sure.
Yeah. Not much to go off of this one. We're kind of skimming through this. Back to the wheel. Nashville, Carolina.
This was a little bit more exciting than I thought it was going to be. 4 straight overtime games to end the series.
These teams love their overtime. And I mean, hey.
They played 6 total.
I've said it before on the app, and I've said it before voice probably, and I'll say it right now. Does not get any better than playoff overtime hockey.
Right.
With a huge crowd, too. Like, it's awesome that crowds are back in the NHL. Like, yeah, I mean, these teams just love their overtime thrillers. This was a very, very close series. Both teams played. These were like ridiculous games. I think there was like a comeback on a couple of these too. Like, it didn't look like it was going to go to a team, than it did. I'd love to know who scored all the overtime winners.
I can look that up and get some lag on my laptop.
Well, I don't think it's 100% necessary, but it's like, it's just it's a fun little playoff overtime series. You get a lot of entertainment out of it. You get a lot of enjoyment out of it, and it's like it could have gone either way. Right. It absolutely could have gone either way. I feel like this was a series that kind of deserved the Game 7. And then I mentioned alternate jerseys. Shout out to Carolina for wearing their storm warning, if you will, is what they like to call it. Their alternate jerseys. Those go hard.
Yeah,
I absolutely love those jerseys. They basically, what they had in the past was like, they had like the maritime flag logo was like a red box with, or it was like a red flag with a black box in it. There was only one red flag, and that they found out that one red flag with the black box means tropical storm. 2 red flags means hurricane. So they had to fix it, and they fixed it with one of the best alternate jerseys I've seen in a long time. They basically tried to do what they said was they tried to go as dark gray as they possibly could without being black. And they killed it.
Absolutely. All right. Let's move back to the wheel.
4 more.
Yep.
St. Louis, Colorado.
Not really much to talk about here. Colorado.
Not much. I'm gonna spin the wheel again because Colorado, we kind of expected them.
Yeah. Colorado 4-1, Colorado 6-3, Colorado 5-1, Colorado 5-2. 20 goals scored in 4 games. St. Louis scored 7.
And they're up 2-0 right now on the Golden Knights. That was Colorado. We kind of have as our favorite to win the Stanley Cup.
Yes.
I will say this, it is a shame, a complete shame that we don't get to see more of Jordan Binnington. If Jordan Binnington had a better team in front of him, who knows? Mm-hmm. Who knows? Like, this guy just turned it on in the postseason. It was ridiculous. But Nathan McKinnon, he's too good. Gabe Landeskog, Mikko Rantanen. Who do they have in goal? Philip Grubauer. I mean, good luck. This is a really strong team. Mm-hmm. The wheel just landed on Winnipeg Edmonton, by the way. Another sweep.
Yeah, there were 3 overtime games. Game 4 was a triple overtime thriller.
Oh, we love triple overtime.
This is the kind of series that I know you're going to look and say, well, the Jets swept. Why are we talking about it for longer? The Oilers lost 3 games in overtime. If you just say those are 50-50 games, that's a 1 in 8 chance you lose 3 in a row, and that's just brutal right there for Edmonton. So no more McDavid in the playoffs.
Shame.
Edmonton scored 8 goals in 4 games. That's not getting it done.
No. You're not.
You can't play 2 games on home.
Look at it this way.
Come on.
Look at it this way. You played better than the Kings did in 2018 when they scored 7 goals in 4 games. So, oof. I mean, Vegas only scored 8 or 9 goals in that game, but that was a really close series. But I'm not going to dwell on 2018. Yeah, not much to talk about there. 2 series left to go. I hope we land on Toronto so we can get to the second part of our title.
Yes.
So close.
We had the all Florida series. We have Tampa and Florida. There was 1 overtime game in this series. Game 3, Florida won 6-5. Tampa was up 3 games to 1 in this series.
I think Tampa won game 1.
Yes. Tampa won the first 2 games at Florida. Florida answered back with an overtime win in game 3. Tampa won game 4 on home ice. Florida won game 5 on home ice, and then Tampa steamrolled to a 4-0 game 6 victory.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of expected Tampa Bay to win the series, but Florida was very competitive in this one. When they were down 3-1, they had a comeback in game 5, I believe it was, and it was it kind of sent the message to me the series is not anywhere close to over. The Panthers are still in this, and then the next game Tampa Bay just steamrolls them. Mm-hmm. So it's as we have our favorites to win the Stanley Cup being in the Colorado Avalanche, but I feel like you shouldn't sleep on Tampa Bay. I feel like they're a really strong
I'm thinking
team.
I don't know how the next round is going to end up happening or end up working out. I know it's the 4 teams are ranked on number of points, but I don't know who the 4 teams are going to be, but I think the best case Stanley Cup final would be Colorado and Tampa.
Absolutely. Tampa gets a chance to defend their title, and Tampa I had as my prediction to win the Stanley Cup at the very beginning of the season. So right now it's Colorado, but if Tampa Bay Colorado happens and Tampa wins, I get to say I called it at the start of the season. Yeah. So there you go. And then lastly, we have Montreal and the second part of our title, the Maple Laughs, doing it again. This is a cursed franchise. They blew a 3-1 series lead and lost in game 7 on home ice.
Ugly. You jump out, you win 3 games in a row. 5-1, 2-1, 4-0. You're up 3-1. You lose in overtime. Then on home ice, you lose 3-1.
And there's just no effort from these guys. It feels like they just don't. They're not trying anymore. They're getting complacent. I feel like they're getting too comfortable with their series lead, and it's just
far from ideal. On home ice too.
And it just feels like at this point there's no finish. They don't seem to care anymore about whether or not they win. They don't seem to. They just kind of focus sort of towards the next round, I'll say. This was a disaster, and
the Maple Laughs. The meme lives on. They now hold the record for most consecutive seasons without winning the title. They have surpassed the New York Rangers. Ouch. If you're a Leafs fan considering switching, I don't blame you. But Montreal, in the meantime, they've won 4 in a row. Carey Price is on fire.
We got godlike performances out of Carey Price. Like, this guy could win the Vezina again, I think, if he's nominated. Yeah, dude, just
it's filthy right now.
Ridiculous.
Montreal can win any game. Again, they've won 4 in a row. They're up 1-0 on Winnipeg. I believe they play tonight.
I believe so. I'm not 100% on that, but like I'm surprised at that one because like Montreal, they caught the Jets sleeping in game 1. Like the Jets are a pretty good team. I feel like
they're a weird Jets team because they were really good for a while and they fell off a cliff and then they sweep Edmonton. It's like, what?
Okay. I mean, no discredit to the Jets. I feel like a lot of people kind of feel like the Jets are the favorite to win in this series because nobody really expected Montreal to even make it to the second round of the playoffs.
Agree.
But they caught them sleeping in game 1, I'll say. So that should be a fun little series. All right.
With that said, it's probably time to wrap it up.
That'll finally wrap it up. Yeah, I got no more wheels to spin. We got no hot takes this week. We'll be back with them next week. Hopefully next week, by the way, as well, we are able to introduce our Squish the Splash segment. We're looking at Squash the Splash, whatever it is.
So exciting times all around. We will be back next Saturday. Whoa, not next Saturday. Next Friday for some bangers, for some banger content. June 11th, same time, 6:30 Eastern, 3:30 if you're in Jack's time zone. Shout out to Pacific. Or Mountain. Technically, Mountain Standard is just
Mountain would be 4:30, I believe.
Well, no, Mountain Standard is 6:30.
Oh, it
that's
is
Tucson, yeah. Or Mountain Standard right now is.
You're Tucson's in Arizona. They don't care about daylight savings time.
Yeah,
or whatever
most of Arizona doesn't. That's one of the quirky things that like part of Arizona does. Most of Arizona doesn't. The University of Arizona doesn't. So.
It's a weird state. It's a weird state.
You know. I've lived there for about 10 months out of the year. I agree. So with that said, I'm Splash. He's Jack. I did it the wrong direction.
Other side.
He's Jack. We'll see you guys next week. And with that, peace out, folks.